What's up, everybody? Thanks for checking us on out here. Tobin here with you. If you guys like the Tobin and Leroy radio show, check us on out at theticketmiami.com on YouTube. That is where you guys can see the program. So, saw this morning, and I found it quite interesting. And that is that Tyson Fury is calling out Anthony Joshua. He went on his Instagram, and he says that you guys know that I'm going to be fighting soon in the next few months. And before they announce the opponent, I need to do this just in case. He says, Anthony Joshua, you just lost a fight to Usyk. You're beltless at the moment. I'd like to give you an opportunity to fight for the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the World and the Lineal Championship of the World in the next few months. You're coming off a 12-round fight, so you're fit and ready. I'll be giving you a few months' notice. If you're interested, I'll send the date, and we can rumble the Battle of Britain WBC Championship. Let me know if you're interested. If not, I'll select another opponent. But thank you very much. Boom. So Joshua goes and he responds that he's not a big social media guy, but that he says that he's not a big social media guy, but that he accepts. And he goes, I don't do online discussions for cloud. So if you're really about it, shout to my management team and I'll be ready for December. So interesting that we have a situation here with Tyson Fury and AJ, who were both supposed to fight before Tyson Fury was legally forced to fight Deontay Wilder. Anthony Joshua goes in that direction. He fights Usyk, the most deserving guy. Usyk ends up beating him. He has now beaten him twice. And Tyson Fury is in this situation where he has kept his belt. He has beaten Dillian White and is now looking for this next opponent. It interests me from a couple standpoints. One, because he's not going for the Undisputed Championship right away. I don't know if that's an Usyk thing. Maybe Usyk is not ready. Maybe Usyk is, maybe he's not interested because he knows Usyk is a less sexy name and a bit of a tougher challenge from a boxing perspective. Now, me personally, I still think that Tyson Fury beats Oleksandr Usyk as good as Usyk has looked, and I think that he looks great as these fights go on. I just think that Tyson Fury is a savvier fighter than Anthony Joshua, and that we saw AJ even still have his moments against Usyk. It's just that he wasn't able to go for the kill switch. I feel like Tyson Fury would handle that much differently. But obviously, people in the UK have been waiting for Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua for a long time. And we've been wanting this fight for a long time. Wanted one was for the Undisputed Championship, and it ended up being for Deontay Wilder again. Now, thankfully, Wilder versus Fury 3 was a really, really fun fight. A really, really fun fight. So I'm glad that it happened, but we never got this fight for the Undisputed Championship, and it seems like we're going this direction of Tyson Fury is he looking at the sexier opponent? Is he looking at, an Anthony Joshua who has no chance in hell? Because, look, this is not the most credible Anthony Joshua we have had. A lot of people are saying, well, there's still interest in him versus Wilder. Wilder's got his Hellenius fight coming up in October, and I really think that after the performance of Andy Ruiz this past weekend, I think Ruiz versus Wilder is a fun fight. When we talked to Andy Ruiz and got to interview him, he says that he'd love to fight Tyson Fury, obviously. That'd be an interesting thing to see, that if the Anthony Joshua thing doesn't go through, would Fury give a guy like Andy Ruiz the opportunity? That would be an interesting thing to check out as well. But let's just stick on this matchup for the moment. AJ is still a big star. This obviously has a lot of national pride for both of them. So I still think that it sells a lot. Like, people in the UK, they're crazy about their boxing. They stay loyal to their guys a lot better in certain regards. Like a guy like Derek Chisora, still a big draw. There wouldn't, I feel like, I think here maybe the fanfare wouldn't be as much, but I think for them, the fanfare would still be a ton. The question is, does Anthony Joshua have a shot in hell against Tyson Fury? And I would say no. Nobody would really think that. I think the odds would be long. I think that they would be about as long against Tyson Fury as they would be against anybody else in the sport. And that nobody really feels like AJ would have any kind of a chance outside of, landing a haymaker. And the thing with AJ, the difference between AJ and Deontay Wilder is that AJ doesn't have that killer instinct, that always looking for the hammer, that always looking to put you away. He just doesn't have that in his arsenal. You saw that in the second Andy Ruiz fight. You saw that here against Usyk, is that even when he seems to have guys beat, he seems content with just kind of having him beat at a distance and doesn't feel like he needs to put pedal to the metal to absolutely finish a fight. And that's been a disappointing thing to see in this part of his career. I'd still be into the fight, don't get me wrong. I think that the buildup would be tremendous. I think that there would be a ton of fanfare. It'd be amazing to see what that atmosphere would be like. But I don't really feel like he's got the chance. And then the idea, okay, the Gypsy King not wanting to take on Usyk, I get it. Usyk is not sexy from an interview standpoint going back and forth. It's not really sexy from a stylistic standpoint. These are two real masters of the sweet science. There's a big discrepancy in size. Feels like it'd be a super ugly fight. Where do you have the fight? What fight actually makes more money? Does AJ versus Tyson Fury make a ton more money than Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk? Probably. And also probably makes for a more entertaining bout as well. And I think Usyk is going to be in this weird spot, a lot like Devin Haney would be, almost coming up in the lightweight division where he's got his rematch against Kambosos. But then you're already kind of seeing, like, Gervonta Davis doesn't really want to take him on. The issues that Devin Haney had are still going to be there, even though he's got all the gold. That people aren't going to be that thrilled to take him on. One, because he's not that thrilling a fighter, and two, he's very, very hard to beat and figure out. And I think Usyk is going to face a lot of that because there's a lot of matchups around here that are fun. Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua, fun. Andrew Ruiz versus Tyson Fury, fun. Anthony Joshua versus Andrew Ruiz for a third time, fun. And they all kind of have a history. They all kind of have a past. And Usyk's just kind of been thrown in here. He's now a unified champion. He was an undisputed champion at cruiserweight. Now he's a unified champion at heavyweight. And he's just kind of been here. And he may be a better boxer than all of them, but, like, who cares, right? Like, people in the heavyweight division, it's not just about who's the best, but people always like to fix with the drama as well. Now, I would like us to get a conclusion on who the best guy in the world is. I think it's Tyson Fury. I don't think it's Usyk. I think the best heavyweight on the planet is Tyson Fury, and I think that if you were to go in there with Usyk, he'd prove it. But I think that if you see where Tyson Fury's gears have kind of gone, he's interested in fun. He's interested in the idea of being in these classics, these memorable fights. And I think that for this to be out there now shows that, maybe beating Usyk to him, what does it mean? I think it would mean the world for a guy like Usyk's legacy to be the undisputed champion in two weight classes. For Tyson Fury, he's kind of been there. He beat the man back in Vladimir Klitschko, even though it was a horribly boring fight. Made the whole comeback all the way to win the championship again. So I think for him, remember, this is a guy who's talking about maybe fighting Francis Ngannou and doing certain showcase fights like that, which is another interesting thing to put onto this, is Ngannou. So wanted to fight in December. Francis Ngannou's still under contract with the UFC for another month there. Would Fury want to do this easy win and then set up an Ngannou fight? Or does he start going in another direction because he feels like that Francis Ngannou thing is dead in the water? Which I would kind of be happy about for a couple of reasons. One, I don't really want to see Francis Ngannou box. I want to see Francis Ngannou in the UFC. Fighting John Jones, fighting a heavyweight division in the UFC, which is better than it's ever been, and is packed with contenders and fun fighters and storylines and prospects and all that type of stuff, more so than seeing him go to boxing and get absolutely crushed by all of these people. As much of a freak show as he is, first of all, compared to some of these heavyweights in the division, he's not as big as he would be in comparison to the UFC. And second of all, we're talking about in a boxing game. Like, the only one that you could kind of tickle my fancy on a little bit would be him versus Wilder, and I feel like Wilder would kill him. I really, really do. So, interesting thing to keep an eye on with this, with Tyson Fury going the route of calling out Anthony Joshua. But intrigued by that, especially with the fallout of Andy Ruiz winning this weekend, and Deontay Wilder's fight's coming up in a little over a month's time, and Usyk's just sitting here probably just wondering, like, what's going to be next for me? I don't know. Very, very interesting things going on in the heavyweight division.